My name's Alicia Enriquez, and the action research project that I did was using children's literature to address adversity in the classroom. The significance of the study: the increased stress, pressure, and demands on children today have caused an alarming increase in child depression, health disorders, and antisocial behavior. However, numerous scientific studies of children facing great adversity have shown just how important resilience is for successful growth. Psychological journals are filled with studies of children and their coping skills in these times of need. I selected adversity as my research topic to address some of the classroom concerns that were happening in my room. I'm a first grade bilingual teacher with ELLs, and there's three recent immigrants who all year have been very shy, don't speak up, don't participate in class, they're always alone, and one of them is actually acting up in order to deal with his troubles. So I wanted to find a way to use children's picture books to help address some of these hardships and things that we're experiencing. As I was reading, some of the articles mentioned how recent immigrant children are majorly affected by the things they've experienced. Some of them have been separated from their parents, or they miss their home, and this causes them to develop behavioral actions in order to cope with whatever they're having trouble with. Natural and human-induced disasters have a devastating effect on people. While many children face victim to these events, children are impacted by these struggles, and many times these these effects cause them to behave in unexplainable situations. According to Chase, Sun, and Steiner, bibliotherapy is a term used in the article to describe how books can be used to help children cope with problematic experiences or times of need. In schools, counselors use this to address depression, behavior problems, uh, self-identity, and cultural awareness. Reading these books can help children encounter opportunities to relate to characters in similar situations, and in return create self-relevant opportunities and social support. Using these books can also help children cope with social or cultural issues. According to Petty, most children can bounce back from adversity in their lives if the appropriate coping strategies are taken. In his study, children's picture books were read to first grade students who experience hardships in their lives. He concludes that children's literature can be an effective way to build resilience in children who have experienced adversity in their lives. Christine Epler's action research study in 2018 concluded that using picture books allowed her class to experience or know what sadness and fear and anger were. She used picture books that addressed empathy and feelings of grief. And after these children were interviewed, they found that they were able to relate to the characters and a lot of these emotions. So they were able to find relevancy and learn how to cope with it. This leads to my research question for this study: how do first grade students respond to literature that focuses on adversity? The methods used was qualitative. I used Putman and Rock to help me guide my research. The study took place at Mustang Elementary, which is here in FAR. The composition is mainly Hispanic, 92%. There's 836 students from pre-K 3 all the way to 5th grade. The study took place in a first grade bilingual classroom, which is 99% Hispanic and 1% African American. The participants were first grade bilingual teacher, which is myself, and 22 first grade students, 13 boys, 9 girls. The ages were 6 to 7 years old. The majority were ELLs, 90%, and they were socially, economically disadvantaged. The data sources I used were journal entries, artifacts, audio recordings. The data analysis was a multi-step method approach, which I used to transcribe my audio recordings. The books I used for this study were Pancho Rabbit and the Coyote, The Pow Pow Fish and the Bully Bully Shark, and My Name is Yoon. All three books addressed some kind of adversity that my students were struggling with, whether it was bullying, immigration, or cultural separation. The three themes that I found were family separation, they made personal connections to the text, and cultural isolation. These are three writing samples from three different students. Each writing sample had similar themes. The students each connected either to the text or to a character in the story. For example, in sample 2, Eddie writes how he remembers when his dad left his mom and him when he was little. He was like Pancho's dad in Pancho and the Coyote. Um, After he wrote this, I talked to him separately, and he began to tell me how during that time he had no idea what had happened to his dad. Him and his mom were still in Mexico with his brothers and sisters, so he was able to relate to the story here. In the other two writings, the students were able to relate emotionally to the characters. So one of the themes there was the personal connections they made to the text. As a result of this study, reading children's literature related to topics of adversity did make an impact in children's behavior and their self-image in my classroom. Even though this lesson was only 6 days long, my students in the classroom were no longer making fun of each other for speaking insufficient English or saying words that were wrong or using English and Spanish in the classroom. Immigrant students that were shy and never participated in class discussions began to feel a little bit more comfortable. They started to raise their hand during class discussions to share their opinions, um, and they started to feel a little bit better about themselves. The students reflected about the characters in the books. They were able to share similar experiences, and they made personal connections with them, which kind of made them open up a little bit and feel more comfortable. My next step is to continue to use children's literature to address classroom concerns, whether it be bullying, race, or immigration. Because of success from this action research plan, I hope to start the beginning of the next school year to use children's book right off the bat and address critical topics in the classroom and of course compare results.